Okay, guys, welcome back. We have Daniela here. It's awesome to bring these conversations. I'm going to bring a lot more of people who can help with areas around coaching, areas around healing, spirituality, all the stuff that we can couple with business to not only help you achieve what you want, but obviously live the kind of quality life you want. You know, the deep inner peace, the deep inner creativity and flow. And yeah, I'm being keen to jump in and get a lot of coaches on here because Daniela just said, man, one of the things I just love talking about is coming from your heart. And how much of a reminder do we need this day in, day out is just how much our heart knows the answers and how much we can get stuck in our patterns through ego or through being comfortable. And we can forget about this. So Danielle, I want to welcome you. I want to also give you the opportunity to explain all about where you've come from and what you do now, because we're going to have a power conversation here that a lot of people can get a lot of nuggets from. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Tyson. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and sharing my journey.
You're welcome.
And thank you. And let's see. So my name is Daniela. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and I've been here for 20 years. And I moved here from the Ivory Coast in West Africa. And when we moved here, we basically had to start life from scratch. We lost everything. You know, I come from a background of having everything. My parents really spoiled me, and overnight lost everything. And we moved here and started from scratch, which, to be honest, was very hard. But I'm also very grateful because it forced me to learn some tough lessons. And I was very blessed to find my way into the corporate world, where I was very successful. I was in managing accounts and managing sales teams. And I was so blessed that I kept moving up. And from one position to another, I started at the call center. And then from that position, I kept moving up and managing sales teams. And it was an incredible experience. And to be honest with you, I was doing really well. And what I was very present to is what I was really good at was my relationship with people. So when I was coaching people and I was building relationships, that's where I really did. Not only I did really well, but also that's where I was the most fulfilled. And you know, at that time, I could not explain why, but out of nowhere, things started feeling off inside of me, and I did not know what that meant. It felt like anxiety, it felt like fear, but I didn't really know what it was. And at the time, I did not handle it very well, but I walked away from everything. I walked away from the corporate world. I walked away from my marriage. I was married at the time, which my marriage also was working. I had a good partner. And I walked away from my friends, and I went on a journey of searching. Except I didn't know what I was looking for, and I didn't know how to look for it. So I found myself in a world of just, you know, filling up this void with the wrong things. And, you know, actually, I don't like to say the wrong things, but let's just say I was filling up the void with things that were not serving me.
Yeah.
And from that place, I had quite the experiences. I made a lot of poor choices. And my ego was really hurting, and I did not know what was going on until it really hit me hard, and I found myself being in a very, very dark place. And it felt, it was in my chest, it was in my stomach, it was tight, and I didn't know what it was. And when I finally decided to completely surrender, and I was on my knees praying, I remember reading A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, one of my favorite books, and I surrendered, said a prayer, and that's when my spiritual journey started. And it's not until I started trusting and listening on the inside and recognizing the breakdown between my mind, body, and soul connection, which I didn't know what that was before. And it's not until I started making those connections that I slowly started getting back on my feet. And I remember one day, 4 years later, as I was healing and working on myself, I remember saying a prayer and saying, well, where do I go from here? And it was, you know, it was very clear. And it's I don't, you know, for me, it's God. For others, it could be the universe or guides. But what I heard is, you're going to be a counselor and this is the school you're going to. And I was like, what? No, thanks. That's not what I want to do. But it was so clear and there was no way I was going to ignore that. And I followed. And it's incredible when I went from the heart and I actually showed up to that school, everything has been falling into place since then. So
Wow.
I've been so blessed to be of service to others. And so much more has happened since then.
Wow. Yeah, there's a few things to unpack there. First of all, let me turn on this light. You can probably see my face now.
Yeah.
So here's some things to unpack there. Not only did you lose everything and have to start over again in a new country, then getting into corporate and being part of sales and part of that success, then finding that you felt off, and then in a space of self-discovery. And the reason why I wanted to review that is because how many people can relate to that? Just that in and of itself is just, I'm on this journey. I jump on a path. I find some success. Then some deep questions start coming in the form of, is this it? Is this really my path? Is there something more? Am I meant to make a bigger difference? And to you, that felt off, but then you went searching. Explain a little bit about what the searching was, what that was all about.
Well, at first I got distracted with dancing on tables and having fun. That's
Nice.
where I was searching. And,
that's where I'm stuck.
Yeah. And it was fulfilling for a bit. I'm not going to lie, right? Because I come from a background where I was not allowed to make mistakes. I was not allowed to express emotions. So for me, it was like, whoa, what is this whole world I never got to experience? And I got to experience it. And when I hit a wall because I wasn't really fulfilling what the deep questions were, I started searching spiritually. I didn't know where to go. I mean, I was born and raised Muslim and I always seeked God, but I didn't really connect to religion specifically. So I started searching and I started attending different spiritual groups and prayers and meditations and going to counseling and going to, breathwork therapy. I really explored reading books and really explored and faced some dark parts of my world that I did not even know existed because I had suppressed for so long.
What were those dark parts when you started to dive in deep into this work and you just explored through all these different modalities? What were the answers that you found, and what were the dark parts you had to work with and work through to get to that point?
Well, the biggest one for me is, and also I want to mention that I also had chronic stomach pain for almost 18 years that no doctor, no specialist could find out what was wrong. I would be at the ER on the floor in pain, and the only thing that would help me was morphine. And when I started exploring that pain, what came through is some sexual abuse from my childhood that I had completely just put away. I didn't even have access to it until I actually started facing and I started looking, and being able to process that and be heard and be seen and doing some deep inner child work really, really made a difference for me.
Wow, man, that's inspiring, because the reason why some people don't want to go from the world of form into the world of formless and the world of more spirit is because they don't want to face what's inside in terms of the emotions, in terms of the thoughts, the doubts. And so kudos to you for being courageous enough to look at that and to just find some deeper answers that, your current path wasn't giving you. Right. So many people find this inspiring and can relate to their own life. And I guess the question that comes up for me is, once you started studying all of this and then you had this insight, this guidance that said, go to this school and learn this. What made you take that leap and listen to that voice instead of listening to the side of you that had the doubts about that idea?
Well, I mean, the first time I heard it was in the summer of 2015. And I was like, well, and my sister had actually approached me with this idea and saying, you're such a people person and you attract a lot of people that are not doing well and they open up to you. So why wouldn't you consider this? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then God said it. And I was like, ooh, I should probably listen.
Mm.
And told me what school to go to. So I inquired about the school and I just fell in love and I knew it was the right place for me to be. But my ego came in and said, well, you're making really good money. Why don't you just, because I had gone back to sales. I had a contract that was really good. And my ego said, but you know what? You're making really good money. You're doing well. Why don't you just wait a bit longer? And then suddenly the contract ended. And I was like, all right, that's from you. That's
Yes.
from the universe. So then I just called the school and I said, actually something else that happened. When I was guided, God, the universe, my guide said, once you put yourself in school, you'll meet your next partner. You'll do the things that you love doing. Just trust, surrender, and go. And I remember telling my girlfriends this. They're my witness. So I called the school. I said, listen, is it too late to register? They said, nope, school starts next week. Registered me. And I was so excited, very scared. At the same time, I had someone that I had from my old soccer team call me that same week and say, hey, we have a new soccer team and we're short players. Can you please come and play tonight? And I was so scared. I didn't know anyone and I'm not a very good player. So I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to go. And God said, you are going. Mm. Well, that night is where I met my husband.
Wow. How cool is that? And how can you tell the difference between the voice that's God, between the voice that's your ego?
Well, the voice that's God is a lot more peaceful for me. It's aligned. It feels, there's a sense of freedom. There's something that just feels really right. Where ego comes with an attachment. It comes with, there's this tightness in my tummy when it's ego. Like there's something with it. There's a conversation around proving myself or a conversation around I'm not enough, or there's something that comes with it where when it comes for God, for me, it's a lot more light. And every time I follow, it does not disappoint.
Wow. That's cool. And so what was this school and what did you learn in there that you knew was your big breakthrough, that this was the path you're meant to be on?
So my very first semester, so it's a very experiential school. It's called Rhodes Wellness College, and it's a very experiential. So everything that you learn, you actually practice, which I love. Cool. And my very first semester, people, when we would be practicing coach and client and counselor, people would say to me, wow, like you've done this before. And I'd be like, no. But it was so natural for me, like being present for people and getting in their world and really creating safety and empathy was just so natural for me. I love doing it. It was easy. And I was not even done school when I signed up my first client. And I've had a full-time practice since before I was done school. I've been so blessed that, I haven't even advertised or give my business cards away. It's just been a flow. And it's because I am so clear that I'm doing it from the heart. And from the very beginning, actually, other people that graduated with me would be worried, how am I going to make money? And for me, I was like, I'm not even thinking about the money. I'm just so committed to being of service.
Wow. How did you move past that? Because you said you had a belief when you were come up that, just stay in this job for a while, stay in this job because you're making money. Then the job ended, the contract ended. I'm sure that belief stayed there for at least a while. You would have had to do some work to get rid of, or not get rid of, but to transcend that belief around money and around money is security, money is safety. And now you're operating from a place where money just doesn't even matter. Like that just isn't even in the forefront of my mind. What was that transition like?
Well, first, I had experienced this before. Like I've been very blessed that in the past, when I've surrendered, money has showed up. So this is not something this wasn't an experience that was new to me, but also when all the doors closed, what happened is when my contract ended, I applied for a bunch of jobs and it was the first time in 10 years that nobody would even call me for an interview. And I was like, this is so weird. And I was so clear that I had to just give up. I just had to not give up, surrender. And I had no money. I had debt. I took a loan to go to school and I paid for my bills on my credit card while I was going to school. And I'm not recommending it, but I'm saying that's where I chose to go. And I've never looked back.
Wow. That's something that, because I listen to this and I know so many people are starting online businesses who are in the space of, I would love to have a full-time practice. I would love to just have things flow with me. What's a belief that you have now that allows that to flow?
I think for me, the most important part when I graduated from school, I remember the school would have a program where you could get, we could help clients for a very small fee for $25 an hour. And a lot of the graduates didn't want to take it because they were saying that $25 is too low. They wouldn't take those clients. I took all of them.
Okay.
So, you know, I was like, no, I'm taking all of them. Some of them are still my clients and most of them have sent me lots of referrals. So for me, I was just open. I didn't make it about money. I made it about, basically I was coming from the heart. I love doing this and I want to practice. And also the other thing that I did is some people did not want to have a second job. I had a second job. I wasn't getting paid very well. I was working on the downtown east side at a transition house, and I was okay with it. I wasn't making very much money, but I was practicing. I was being with people. I was being of service to them, and that's honestly where I thrived the most.
Yeah, and I can relate because I was at a job. A lot of people who follow my content know I was at a job at a restaurant while I was building my coaching business on the side. And it's only when I started meditating extensively. So I started doing 2 hours of meditation in silence a day. And I've been doing that for 8 months now. And it was very, very clear, like the voice for you, it was very, very clear for me. It said, leave the job. Mm-hmm. And then my ego, my mind freaked out. And it was the leap I knew was for my spirit. Mm-hmm. I didn't know why. I didn't know how it was going to happen. That was just the leap that was guiding me, right? And so I just had to trust and had to develop this deep level of knowing that said, when I leave the job and I do what I love full time and follow my heart full time. I have to, one, learn, either get the higher level opportunities that get presented, or two, learn the lessons I know I'm meant to learn. And it was only, like you said, it wasn't about the money. I'm like, I'm willing to go broke. I'm willing to go back and move in with my parents. I'm willing to eat noodles and baked beans, whatever I could afford for food. Like, I'm willing to do that because I know all I know was my heart said do it. Yeah. My heart, yeah. God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, divine mind, the Tao, whatever you want to call it, was said do this. And so that's what I did. And so the lessons I learned from that was so immense. And now I'm just doing what I love full time and following my heart. And so I guess the topic comes up because everyone's looking to take this leap. When they do that, a lot of people don't want to go back to the fear and the uncertainty, what some people might call dark night of the soul, what you talk about as well. Explain to me what the dark night of the soul is and what it is, like, how is it that it develops for people in their life?
Yeah, I would love to. And I just want to acknowledge something that you said that I really love when you're talking about your experience with trusting your heart. And what I want to say about this is that once we experience it and we choose that voice again, it becomes easier, for me at least. I recognize it now with so much more ease than I would before, because I keep practicing listening to my heart. It could be as simple as my heart would say, do not touch that food. And if I don't listen, I'll touch the food, my stomach will be upset. Yeah. So really trusting our heart and trusting that guidance becomes easier once we practice it.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny because I'm on, I think I might do a 24-hour fast today. I haven't eaten today and it's like 1 p.m.
Wow.
And so it's funny you mentioned that because I'm pretty hungry, but it felt in my expansion this morning, it felt in my expansion to do a longer fast. And so listening to that voice, like I said, it gets a lot louder. That voice from your heart, from your spirit gets a lot louder, and the ego gets more and more quiet. But you have to take those leaps to condition that voice, right?
Absolutely. And really trusting, no, it's not even a trust, it's a knowing in our heart that it will work, and not being attached to the how. Yes. I will talk to you about the fasting, but maybe for another conversation. Yeah. Going back to the dark night of the soul. So, dark night of the soul is very similar to depression. So often people will come to see me thinking they're depressed. And as soon as they start talking and sharing where they're at, I recognize right away that they're just more having a spiritual crisis or a spiritual breakdown. And it can look very dark. It can be very scary. People feel confused, scared, alone, hopeless. There's a lot of hopelessness, disconnection. They start questioning, who am I? What's my purpose? And I mean, it's not exactly the same for everyone, but that's what it looked like for me. Who am I? What's my purpose here? What's the point of life? And just really this dark place and not understanding. But what's really happening is we're being, I want to use the word forced. We're being supported to face our dark side. So our wounds, our shadows, and look at what there is for us to learn from that place. So for me, it was looking at what happened to me in my childhood and the impact on that on my physical body, on my emotional body, my spiritual side, and the impact in so many ways. I didn't know how to say no. I struggled with boundaries. I didn't know how to express myself. And so it put me in a lot of situations that weren't serving me. So really, Dark Night of Soul is an opportunity for us to just go and face our shadows. And it can be dark and it can be ugly. And it's designed this way to support our growth.
Wow. And so for someone who's in the situation where they have this fear, they have this confusion, they don't know what to do next, all they know is they feel this uncomfortable emotion, what would you recommend to guide them to the sides of them that they need to look at and the shadows that they need to uncover?
I love this. This is my favorite place to meet people because I've been there. I get it. And to me, when people come see me and they're there, I'm like, yes, this is juicy.
Yeah.
But what I would say to people is, you're not alone, number one, and there's nothing wrong with you. We are meant to go through this. We are meant to have these different experiences and grow through them. And I would encourage them to ask for help, search for help. And if they're not ready to do a one-on-one with a coach, a counselor, a spiritual therapist, if they're not ready for that, that's okay. They can still find community that speaks that language and that can support them. The main breakdown here is most people don't know how to get through it on their own, because a lot of us don't even know what's there. We don't really know what's going on. We just feel yucky and we don't really get why. So it's really nice to have someone else support us in this process. So I highly encourage reaching out to someone, preferably a professional, someone that knows what they're doing. And if they're not ready for that, maybe do some research and start reading about people that have experienced this. So at least being able to relate to someone else and feeling like it's normal. They're not alone.
Wow. Cool. If they've reached out, like I believe wholeheartedly that having a coach or having a therapist or a professional who's able to see the patterns you can't see in yourself helps you accelerate that process. That's why I have coaches time and time again. But I think a key question that comes up for me is if someone's not too sure about that option, you mentioned resources. What resources would you recommend, whether it be in form of books or videos or someone you learn from, that someone could get started with?
Yeah, good questions. I would just really looking it up. The book, I read a great book about what that was actually called The Dark Night of the Soul. I can't remember. I think it's Mike Moore. You can read that book. You can also listen to people that talk about spiritual growth. So I personally love some of the conversations you have on your podcast, and I think they're very insightful for someone that's going through a dark time. The author that made a big difference for me was Marianne Williamson. She talks a lot about the ego versus love, the darkness versus light. And I would really look it up. For me personally, I read Marianne Williamson. I reached out to different gurus, whatever was going on. I just asked the universe, I asked God, and whatever was sent to me, I just stepped into it. I trusted and stepped into it and explored what made sense for me. I explored different conversations around religion, and I was to see what would my connection to God look like? What would my connection to the universe look like? And I found my own way to connect, and and no books told me about that way. Like I had to find it for myself.
And that's part of the journey, is finding it for yourself. It's like, no matter what's happening, like you said before, it's happening for a reason. And trusting that. It's a deep knowing of whatever happens that's coming my way is meant to happen. It's just, are you in resistance to it or are you allowing it? And if you allow it, I believe you dive in deep and finding those answers, and then the world will respond to the courage that you show by looking in. So if someone's going through dark night of the soul, they're lost, they're confused, they might be in a transition point, or maybe they're at a crossroads between choosing what it is, what it is they want to do. They can reach out to a professional. They can start doing their own discovery. What else can they do within themselves? What else would you recommend they can start really exploring these shadows that they've found?
Well, going inwards is really, really key. But if you don't know how to do that, and if you're not supported, it depends. Like, it can get maybe too scary for people to look on the inside. So meditation for sure, but people struggle to meditate if they haven't first emptied all the stuff that's in there or process the stuff that's in there. So my experience is that people struggle to meditate unless they've actually processed things. Personally, I really encourage working with someone, because there's something very magical in being heard, being validated, and being received in a very safe space. There's something really magical that happens when you have someone supporting.
Why do you think that's so important? Why do you think that's a big transition for people, just having that open space?
With working with someone and having the safe space?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think, you look at little kids, one of the things that's most important to us as kids is being heard, seen, validated, and loved by our caretakers. That's what we want most. That's what the scariest thing for us is, that our caretakers don't love us. So for those of us that have experienced not being heard or validated, it's something that we're craving. There's something when I'm experiencing shame, or when I'm experiencing there's something wrong with me, and then there's someone across from me that normalizes my experience and hears my experience and doesn't make it wrong, or doesn't judge it, or doesn't try to fix it. There's something that magical that happens where we release, we feel validated, we feel basically that we matter.
How important is that? I mean, I find that's the reason why, if you work with someone, if they show that level of compassion, that level of safety, that level of love unconditionally, at some way that resonates with yourself. And I think you can then emulate what you've been shown unconsciously for yourself. Like, if someone can love me unconditionally, and they can hold space for this emotion to just be there without judgment, they see that now as an option for themselves. So not only are they guided to something that's deep, that they didn't realize was there before, but they now realize there's another option, right? Is that the way you would explain it?
I love what you just said. And sometimes people have not experienced being heard. So when you practice that for them, they get that first experience, then they know what's available for them. They know what's available in healthy relationships. So they know what to look for, where they didn't have access to that before. So you're almost like you can be that mirror for them as well.
Wow. And let's transition this into business. You've grown your own business, you've sort of, full deck of clients. You really haven't had to struggle in that regard because you were following your heart full time. What's some advice you would give to some business owners they know growing an online business or serving in some way is their heart's calling? That's the difference they want to make. But at some level, they get frustrated, they get lost, they get confused, they have fear come up, they have judgment. So they're stuck in those uncomfortable emotions, and it's stopping them moving forward. How can they sort of use this to follow that path?
Well, my biggest advice is, I highly encourage people to always look at their own stuff and what's coming up for us. Like, I always work with my own counselor, my therapist, my coach, and consistently, even if I don't have anything to talk about, because who are we kidding? There's always something, right?
Yeah.
And consistently, because things come up for us, and that's going to get in the way of you doing what you really want to do. So for some people, I observe some people forcing themselves to focus on social media when they hate doing social media. Why are you doing that? Or they force themselves to do workshops when they don't like doing workshops. So for me, I only focus on what I love. People have tried to get me to do workshops. People have tried to get me to attend networking events. I don't like to do this stuff. I only like to be available for one-on-one sessions. It's my favorite thing to do. I love being there present with my clients, and I only focus on that. And that's the only thing I attract.
So you
And
followed everything that felt aligned with you, and that's why you find you have the success you do.
absolutely. It feels good. It feels right. I don't feel, exhausted at the end of the day. In fact, my husband says when I pick you up from work, sometimes it's the happiest I see you. Like I have, I don't feel like I'm working. Like that's easy for me. Of course, sometimes I do when I'm out of alignment, but when I'm aligned, this is what feels most right for me. And I encourage people to really be clear with themselves. What makes you happy? What makes you feel free? And focus on that part rather than focusing on things. Or like some people try to build their own websites. Why are you focusing? If they don't like it, why are you focusing on something you don't love? Pay somebody that loves to do it. That's my belief system.
Okay, great. And now, was there anything in your path once you started coaching, once you started counseling, once you started helping people the way you did, was there anything that you felt aligned, but also felt scary? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that was like a calling to you, but you had to sort of find something within you and break away a belief or break away a side of you or an egoic pattern in order to follow what felt aligned? Was there anything like that for you?
Yeah, there are many things. When I first got an office, at first I was renting a room per hour, and then I started getting busy and I wanted to get my own office. And I live downtown Vancouver. Rent is really expensive. And I was like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Whatever. And I trusted and I said, no, this is what feels right. It's okay. And sure enough, my bookings doubled because now I have this physical space for it. Okay, and great. When I wanted to increase my prices because it felt aligned to increase my prices, I was like, well, no, what if clients this, and I said, no, this is what feels right. No one complained. And, so it does come up for me, and I have to remind myself. What I practice is reminding myself that it's coming from the heart, and reminding also myself that if it fails, it's okay. If that didn't work, it's okay. I can try something else.
Yeah. Well, first of all, how often do you visit Stanley Park?
Not as often. I live on the other side of downtown, so I go on the seawall quite often, but on the other side.
Dan, that was the first ever place I saw a squirrel for the first time, and I like flipped out. It was awesome. It was like my first week in Canada of my 2-year trip, and people were just watching me with my phone running around chasing squirrels in Stanley Park. That was my expansion back then, which was traveling and getting outside my comfort zone. Just thought I'd mention that because say hi to the squirrels for me when you go back there.
Will do. I'll do that for you. I just wanted to also quickly mention, when you're talking about the fear, the alignment, the message coming through, and then the fear. Late last year, I had a calling to build a platform for healers, for practitioners, mind, body, and soul practitioners. And it was so clear that this is what I was asked to do. And every fear you can think of came forward, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. This is not a website I can do on my own. I have no funding. I did not think twice. I just looked for a developer, which by the way showed up on my door, and built that thing. And then the marketing person showed up on my door, and then the practitioners showed up, and now this platform is becoming much bigger than I am. But the trusting and the surrendering is what has helped me actually achieve these goals.
Wow. Now here's a question. When you had the fear, how could you tell the difference between that it was fear but aligned compared to something that's not aligned, that isn't your calling? Do you understand the question? It's sort of like, what do you feel, or what indications can someone have when they have this path or they have this direction, and how they can tell, although it's fear, although it's scary, although doubts are coming up, it's aligned with me. It's where my expansion is. What do you feel there, and what advice would you give someone?
Well, physically on my body, it feels like excitement. It's in my chest. It feels excitement. I'm excited. And then when I think about it, it brings me joy. I'm like a little kid. I'm like, oh my goodness, this feels so right. This is so aligned. Imagine bringing all these amazing practitioners and healers in one place. and making it so easy for people to find them. That's my language. That feels so right for me in my body, in my soul, and my mind. And then the fear kicks in. But I recognize the fear. That fear is the fear of growth. It's like stretching myself. I know that I'm playing the next step. It's a bigger game. And I know that feeling every time I come from sales. Every time my quota is higher, I'm expanding myself. It's scary, but it's a good scary. It means that I'm up to something bigger. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. When something doesn't feel right, my chest is like, it's like anxiety for me. It's like, I feel it's tight, it's scary. I know I know my body, my nervous system knows there's something wrong. So it's a very different feeling in my body for me.
That's key to listen in. What you're explaining is, if you're not sure what to do, listen to the feeling. If it's expansive, like if it's stretching you, you say, compared to if you just get that anxiety. So what you said, it's the expansive and stretching feeling from growth, right? Because you know it's the next level. I'm playing the next game. I'm playing the bigger level that I know is in my expansion. So the uncomfortable emotions comes from your expansion rather than something that is just completely not aligned. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah. So the expansion, the lightness, the freedom, the excitement versus the tightness and the fear, it's more like the survival kind of fear for me, but it's different for everyone. And that's also why it's so important for people to do the work. If you do the work and you process what's in there for you, and you learn how to listen to your body and you learn how to listen to your emotions, it becomes so much easier for you to recognize what feels right to what doesn't feel right. Wow. Where if you don't do the work, you don't know. Everything just feels the same.
Yeah, totally. So what's next for you? What feels your expansion next? And where are you moving to?
My journey to motherhood. So my husband and I would like to have kids. So that's what is on our list of 2020. And one-stop therapy. One-stop therapy is also my baby. I am so grateful to have created that. And I say it's not even mine. I say it's the collective that helped me create this. But I'm really so committed, because when I was searching for healing, I was so happy that I found plant medicine. I found breathwork therapy. I found coaches. I found acupuncture. I had so many amazing resources that helped my body, mind, and soul throughout my healing. And I want to help people find all these resources with ease. I want people to find you with ease. I want people to find, me with ease when they're struggling, and learn about the different modalities that are available out there. Some people don't even know that spiritual coaching is available.
Yeah. So that's onestoptherapy.ca, correct?
Yes, correct.
Tell us a bit more about that. If someone is going through something where they're unsure of what to do next, and they know at some level it feels in their expansion, it feels like a stretch for them to reach out to other modalities, other professionals to seek some sort of answers. Tell us a bit about that platform and what it's all about.
Yeah, so it's a directory, basically. It's like a yellow pages for practitioners, healers, therapists, and workshops and classes. And my invitation is be curious. Just go on the site and type in what you're experiencing, whether it's anxiety or fear, and see what comes up. See what different modalities, what different techniques can support you with this. And practice trusting your intuition, and see, of those practitioners who feels right for you. Give them a call, have a consultation for free. And also, if you follow us on social media, on Instagram or Facebook at onestoptherapy.ca, you can also see we post interviews with each practitioner, so you can get a sense of who they are and what they work on and their little journey. So, you can just follow us and see if anybody calls to you. And you can also reach out to us and ask us, and we can try to guide you as well.
And I love how you have taken what was your story and made it into your passion, made it into a way you can contribute. And this is what I was talking to someone about today, is that every single thing you're going through at some way is leading you to serve at different levels, serve and contribute in a way that is your heart's calling, which is why, when you're going through something, you're meant to go through it. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you were going through the dark night of the soul, going out of, out of sales, out of corporate, having 18 years of this stomach pain that no one could explain, and you had to do your own searching, that led you to have compassion for those who are in that situation. So you not only coach from a place that's empowering, but you're now setting up a platform for people to just be able to find those answers with ease, and to make that transition. And so everyone here who's going through something, whether it be some doubts, some emotions, some behavior issues, some things where you're stuck in the road and it's difficult to making decisions, trust me, you're meant to go through it. And not only is it going to empower you to become who you're meant to become, it's going to help guide you with clarity on why you're here to make a difference and what difference you're here to make. Is that what you would explain as well?
Absolutely. And I can tell you, I had so many insecurities growing up. I had so many experiences that didn't, at the time that I thought did not serve me. And looking back, I am so grateful because the amount of people I've been able to support and help because of all these experiences and all these insecurities makes everything so worth it.
Mm, it really does. And it's hard in the moment to realize
Yes.
that this is happening for a reason. But in the moments, it's important to get that heightened level, that sort of like spiritual point of view. You can have gratitude for the emotions you're feeling right now. Can have gratitude for the confusion, right? Because you can look, but you're going to look back and realize that's what helped you get there. And I don't think we need to necessarily make that harsh transition for you to come back and recognize there is some gratitude there. I reckon we can feel gratitude for our pain, for the moments right now that feel uncertain, especially in business. And if you can really be in a place of gratitude and have that higher level of consciousness to look at this, you'll hold the space for yourself where you can start getting guidance. The people will come to you that are meant to come to you. You'll have answers come through you, and you'll be able to feel, like you said, on that platform, you'll be able to feel on One Stop Therapy which one aligns with you, because you're more accessing to your emotions. You're paying more and more attention to what you're feeling. So that's really cool. What else would you be able to give us in terms of some tips, some guidance, some areas of insight before we finish up?
Well, what I would love to say is that no matter where we are is okay. It doesn't matter what we've done in the past. It doesn't matter what we think was bad and wrong, the choices we've made, the people we've hurt, what we perceive as we've hurt. It doesn't matter. We can start from scratch at any time, anywhere. We all have a chance to find freedom, find inner peace, find ourselves. And I just really want to tell people that it's okay. You have shame, you have guilt. It's completely okay. And you just need the support and the space to make peace with that part of you, those parts of you. And there are people out there that will be super happy and have the experience to support you.
Wow. Awesome. How can people reach out and learn more about you and what you're up to?
For me, they can follow me on Facebook. So it's Daniela Abedrabbo Counseling. It's a very long last name, so maybe we can type it also.
Yeah.
And on my website, so it's danielaabedrabbo.com. For One Stop Therapy, it's www.onestoptherapy.ca. Easy to find. My phone number, my email is on there. And any questions, even if it's just people being curious and they have a quick question, please reach out and know that you're not alone. Most of us are going through similar things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll put all the links in the show notes so people can easily just pop over and do that. But man, it's such a powerful conversation. And how many times do we need these reminders? I think we also teach this content because we remind ourselves time and time again, every single time we have this type of chat. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to just be here and share your wisdom, share your story from a place of openness, a place of vulnerability. And we can very much tell from your energy that you're in your heart, you're following your path, and you're definitely in a space of contribution. So I want to thank you for that. And is there any other lasting pieces of wisdom that would make this make this chat feel complete?
No, I really just want to thank you, Tyson. Thank you so much for your commitment and for being a voice for us. And we need you. So thank you so much for what you do for us.
You're very welcome. Awesome. Well, everyone can continue to listen to these calls and listen to these chats, because even if the same themes arise, they'll be said with a different flavor, with a different metaphor, with a lot of different energy that will resonate at deeper levels. But we can also dive in deep into some other topics. So Daniela, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. You're very welcome.